Hi guys, it's Mrs. Schacht here, and I'm here to talk about the Industrial Revolution and the Market Revolution, which go hand in hand together. We're going to look at what these terms mean, what life was like beforehand, the advancements that allowed this revolution or revolutions to take shape, how the nation became connected, and how and who took advantage of the growth. One of the things that's important to note is that number one, life before the first industrial revolution and market revolution was very slow paced. Many people were subsistence farmers, which meant smaller family farms. They were specialized in a certain skill to make a certain product. And then, of course, if you needed products that you did not make, you would often trade or barter with people nearby. So people were pretty much limited to their surrounding areas. The industrial and market revolutions are going to completely shift that. So, what do these two terms mean? The first industrial revolution, so early 1800s, is referring to this idea of no longer making products by hand, no longer, being specialized in a certain skill, but now products are going to be made by machines. The market revolution goes hand in hand with that because due to all of the new transportation advancements that you heard about in Miss Ulrich's video, the canals and the railroads, now this new technology can be bought and sold all over the country. So if I live in Chicago, I now have access to products made in Boston and vice versa. So this is going to bring all of these goods to a new market. So the new technology, the transportation, and a new labor source is kind of the perfect storm for these two things to take shape. In terms of technological advancements, two that are monumental are actually based in agriculture, and that's John Deere's steel plow and McCormick's mechanical reaper. There were many farmers out west who used these two new advancements, and the steel plow was used to plant crops, and then the reaper was used to harvest or cut them down. And by being able to plant more crops and then much more quickly cut them down, that meant that any farmer was able to then sell more products like wheat. And then if you can sell more, you make more money. So the size of your farm can grow. And also if there's, more farms doing this, that makes the price of these crops cheaper. Just a quick aside and fun fact, the McCormick family is based in Chicago. And if you guys have ever heard of McCormick Place, or the Chicago Tribune or WGN, that's all the McCormick family. So there's your Chicago A-Push connection. In addition to that, of course, as you guys can see, this allows for the production of wheat in particular to be cut down. So again, if it takes a farm less time to plant and harvest, then they can sell more and make more money. And then due to these transportation advancements, that wheat is bought and sold all over the United States. Another agricultural advancement that changes the game completely, specifically in the South, is Eli Whitney's cotton gin, which is a machine that separates the seeds from the cotton. Now, what's interesting about the cotton gin is that it's going to create a cotton boom in the South. And the South is going to, these massive cotton plantations are going to make a lot of money selling cotton, not only in the United States, but all over the world. But the more cotton you can produce, the more slave labor is needed. For the most part, slavery as an institution began dying out in the early 1800s, and the cotton gin kind of firmly entrenched slavery as an institution in the United States. And you can see how slave farms and plantations grew significantly over these 70 years. Also, as our nation begins to expand west, the question will then become, is this land that permits slavery? And as you're going to see in future chapters, this is only going to cause a lot more chaos and tension in the United States. In terms of technological advancements that maybe impacted the North, so whereas the West is agriculture, the South is cotton, the North is industrial. And we have textile industries, which I'll speak to, and the rise of kind of modern factories. This would not be possible, again, without Eli Whitney and the creation of interchangeable parts. So whereas somebody may have been specialized in a specific skill, before the Industrial Revolution. Somebody makes guns, somebody makes dresses, etc. Interchangeable parts takes away the need for skill and allows any item to be kind of mass produced by breaking it down into smaller parts. So instead of making, a musket tailored to that specific customer, what you would do is then kind of break it down into smaller parts, and this would kind of create more of an assembly line fashion and allow products to be mass produced. Mass produced products usually drive the price down. It also usually drives the quality down, but these interchangeable parts allow for an industrial center in the north. Additionally, speaking of industry, you also have what becomes known as the Lowell System. Lowell, Massachusetts becomes the first textile center in the United States in the early 1800s. And what they do is they take cotton from the South and they create textiles, clothing. And then that clothing is sold all over the country and all over the world. What's interesting about the Lowell System is that they employ mainly young women. And so they house and feed these young women who work in these textile mills. So this is a photo of Lowell here. You'll notice it's located on the water. Many of the looms were water powered at first, and then, as time progresses, that'll move toward electricity toward the later end of the century. But these young women, again, would be housed in dormitories. They would be fed. They'd wake up at 4:45 and work till 6 p.m., 6 days a week. And so you start to see the creation of a factory system. Okay. This is what the looms would look like. And again, textiles equals clothing. So you've got young women making clothing that, again, can be sold all over the country. So as a result, just to kind of summarize, the market revolution really does connect the country. Farms in the West do become more commercialized, meaning they're more kind of corporate based and larger. They're selling wheat to the East. Out in the East, you've got these textile mills booming. That clothing is being sold to the South and to the West. You also have banks in the East that are financing land for farmers out West and giving them loans to do so. Then you've got those, cotton plantations in the South, bringing cotton to the North for this lucrative textile industry. So the country really does become connected economically, but as a result, it's also going to become very politically and socially connected as well. And even though the country does become connected, inevitably, these regional economies will also cause quite a divide. So politically, this is going to create what's called a sectional divide within the nation. Every region has a distinct economy, so they're going to eventually look to support candidates who are going to protect their interests. So you'll read more about that in future chapters. You're also going to start to see the beginnings of government oversight over the economy. They're going to look for, whether or not certain companies are, paying their workers fairly, whether there's conditions that are fair. You're going to start to see Supreme Court cases pop up regarding railroad rates and shipping rates. And so the government's going to start to kind of pay closer attention to what's happening. Economically, at face value, this is the creation of a true capitalist society. So the rich get rich, excuse me, some do not. And so you're going to see distinct social classes. You're going to have a lot of very wealthy kind of textile merchants in the north and out east, wealthy bankers. You're going to see some southern plantation owners do pretty well also, but the people working in these textile mills, your average southern farmer or even farmers out west, many are going to suffer as well. You're also going to see the development of large cities like Chicago, St. Louis, that are going to become both transportation and communication hubs and kind of grow the West and then subsequently grow the country further out. Socially, we do see more people move out west to try their hand at farming and to work on some of these corporate farms. Women do begin to question, traditional gender roles. If a woman can now go work in a textile mill, it now leads one to wonder, what else can women do? And so you are going to start to see kind of the rise of a first suffrage movement in a couple years. Suffrage means the right to vote. And you're going to see a huge population growth in a lot of cities due to immigration, again, to work in a lot of these mills and factories. And of course, we are going to see in a few future chapters the spread of both political and religious ideas now that the nation is so interconnected. But just be aware, while we're connected, the very things that connect us are also going to drive us apart in the future. The other kind of massive topic to discuss during this time period is the fact that, yes, we do have a new source of labor, and that is through what is referred to as first wave immigration. So if you guys take a look at this chart, you'll notice that there's an increase in immigration in the 1840s and 1850s, and we had primarily Irish and German immigrants coming to America, both escaping some conditions in their countries of origin. You'll see another huge wave in the early 1900s, which again, we will discuss in later chapters. In terms of the Irish and the Germans, over the next several decades, millions will come to the United States, and I'll talk about the Irish first. So, excuse me. The Irish, unfortunately, were suffering from mass starvation in the 1840s due to an airborne fungus that completely destroyed the potato crop in Ireland. And it is estimated that 2 million perished during this famine because, again, a famine means that there's no food, so one starves to death, and about 1 million Irish will immigrate to the United States. Many of them, by origin, are very poor farmers, so they afford barely a ticket over, but once they dock in cities like New York and Boston, they cannot afford to, move about or, buy a train ticket to the rest, to maybe other cities out west. So many do lay down their roots in New York and Boston. And if you guys know anything about those two cities both have very thriving Irish kind of enclaves even today. You can see roots of that immigration. Additionally, you have the Germans. So in Germany, you had a massive political revolution taking place. You had many people fighting against working and living conditions, including here mandatory military service. And as a result, many Germans leave, escaping political persecution. They will settle in what is today the Midwest, and because these German immigrants do have skills, baking, brewing, etc., you're going to see the Germans fare a little bit better than the Irish. Cities like Milwaukee and St. Louis, even today, you can still see roots again of that German ancestry through this first wave of immigration. There is going to be a backlash to this immigration through the rise of what becomes known as nativists or nativism. And this is the the belief in the superiority of native-born Americans. And so what they will do is they will discriminate, particularly against the Irish in a lot of cities like New York and Boston again, and prevent the Irish from getting jobs. And this is also going to lead to the creation of what becomes known as the Know Nothing political party. This was formed in 1854, and the Know Nothing party ran on an anti-immigrant, specifically anti-Catholic platform. And of course, they were called the Know Nothing Party because they did begin as a secret society, and they were told when asked, to divulge any information about the party, the members were instructed to say, "I know nothing." So they do gain a little bit of political steam, but again, we're a couple of years before the Civil War, so the party will eventually die out. Just to show you guys that there is a response to immigration. So you've got the Industrial Revolution, the Market Revolution, first wave immigration, some big topics. Wouldn't be surprised if you guys saw some sort of LEQ question, or heck, even a DBQ question asking about, the effects of the market revolution, or, the impact of first wave immigration. But these are some heavy hitting topics that I wouldn't be surprised if you guys saw in the future. Thanks for listening, and hope you guys have a great day.